This is the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast with your host, Kevin Murray.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. On this episode, we have a special guest that is a fantasy sports Hall of Famer and an industry pioneer. He's host of Fantasy Football Weekly on KFan, and he's the founder of GuillotineLeagues.com. It's the one and only Paul Charchian. Welcome to the show, Paul.
I'm really excited to be here, and even more so with the big announcement that Guillotine Leagues is now part of the Fantasy Life family. And this is something we've been working on for many, many months, as you can imagine. And the news just went public recently, where it allows us to really bring resources to the Guillotine League format that we did not have as our own little small startup. And this gets us into a bigger family with more talent and more resources, and so we can do things like, hey, let's make every private league free. What a luxury that is.
It is. No, it's an amazing thing. I've played Guillotine for the first time last year, and it was such a. I've been playing fantasy for since 1995, right? And that was such a fun, refreshing experience. Intense, you got till Monday night, the last minute of the game, and you don't know if you're going to survive or not. It's such a cool format. Obviously, I'd love to have you to share a little bit for the listeners and viewers, what is Guillotine Leagues? What are they all about?
Yeah, so the premise here is you play with up to 18 teams in your league because there's 18 weeks in the season. And instead of playing head-to-head, every week the low-scoring team gets chopped from the league forever. And their players go to the waiver wire where the rest of us feast on these free agents. And so it becomes an exercise in trying to not finish last, which is really a different mentality than what you have in a traditional league. And then you get to build these crazy superstar rosters, Kevin, that the likes of which you've never seen before. And that part is so much fun. If you're alive, how far did you make it in your Guillotine League?
I think
you
played Final Four. So I got a good experience.
You did. And that roster that you had when you were down to the Final Four, it's like, should I drop Devontae Adams outright?
Yes. Yes.
When you've consolidated an 18-team league down to 4, and with all the best players on rosters, you get to build a crazy, crazy team. So much fun.
And one cool thing is that you got 18 weeks to start the season, but you can start these leagues at any point during the season, right? As long as you have the same amount of, or one more player than the amount of leagues left, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if you wanted to start in, week 2, you could play with 17 teams or less. Your teams, your season will end earlier.
Yeah.
If you start a 14-team league, whenever your season will end after week 13, you'll have one team left. So yeah, you can really play with any number. And yeah, it is nice that you can start a new league that works perfectly well in week 2 or week 5 or week 8. And that is one of the nice things about this format.
That's awesome. And what are you most excited for with this new relationship with Fantasy Life?
It sounds a little mundane, but when you see the new app, you'll be like, wow, look at this. Just the new resources that we had available to us to do things like totally reskin the app, the website. And then, Matthew Berry's got a big microphone, and he's going to be able to draw on a lot of people that little old Paul in the Midwest and fly over Minneapolis wasn't necessarily able to reach.
And he loves the game. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. Cause like I said, my experience with it was great. It's fun to see, the bright future it has ahead. Now, obviously you've brought so much innovation to the fantasy sports industry over the years, and you clearly have an unrivaled passion for the fantasy sports industry. Obviously this had to have stemmed from a passion for sports. Where and when did that all begin for you? Just your love for sports?
Yeah, just, lifelong Viking fan, struggling with all the losses and the playoff losses and the NFC championship losses. People don't know the Vikings have lost 6 straight NFC championship games. Think about what that does to your fan base. You're a game away from the Super Bowl 6 times. And honestly, mostly haven't even come close in those games, lots of blowouts in those. So yeah, that's it. Long suffering Viking fan, and then started playing fantasy in '87.
Okay.
Back in like the Jerry Rice heyday, and even, this is early, like rookie, it was like rookie Jerry Rice, and going so way back, started playing then, and then started professionally in the industry in 1993.
So how did you find fantasy sports back then? Like what do you
A
remember what
buddy's
it was?
mom played, and
Okay.
so she played, and then he created his own league, and at this stage, I think he was like, I don't know, like a freshman in college. I'm like a sophomore in college. Yeah, so it started way back then.
So what was it in 93 that inspired you to dive in? Like how did that start for you?
Well, keep in mind this is pre-internet, 93.
Yeah.
There was a preseason book and 2 or 3 magazines that were out back then, that all hit in the preseason. There was a time when there was not a published word on fantasy football after the season started. So myself and my co-founder of Fanball, Rob Fithian, created Fantasy Football Weekly magazine, which was a magazine that came out every week during. It started in summer with some. We had an issue in June, an issue in July, and an issue in August, and then we went every week of the season previewing games. And you know that was at a time where nobody had ever written a fantasy preview of an upcoming game. Like, here's what we think is going to happen in this game. And so, we had to do a lot of kind of uncharted territory back then in the 90s on just like, what do fantasy players even want to read? What's important to them? Because there was no roadmap whatsoever for in-season content.
What did you love most about it when you discovered the game? What was it that hooked you?
I think it's not that different for me than it is other people. It's the camaraderie with friends, and the smack talk and the competition, and we love football, and everybody wants to be the smartest one in the room, and yeah. So I think that's a lot of it. And then since the start, to me, what's been really fun is just seeing the game morph and change over time, right?
Yeah.
The scoring systems are more sophisticated, and the people are so much smarter, and all the new ways to play. Not just guillotine recently, but the game's just changed so much, and just love that Kevin can go play the way Kevin wants to play, and find 11 other people that want to play the way you love it. I love all the innovation, and it's been thrilling to be in the industry, honestly, and see all the companies and all the success stories.
Yeah, I started playing in 95. I did one of those like Sporting News fantasy challenges,
Okay, yeah,
right? So
yep, the
so
back
I've,
of the USA Today, that kind of
yep,
thing, or back of
yep.
Sporting News. Yep.
So fun, so fun. Also, yeah, I've seen so much change as well. It's pretty cool to experience all of it because it's all great. And you're right, the camaraderie, the competitive nature of it all. It's very special. That's my passion, is that league experience from the commish side and all that. So
Yeah, for
I
sure.
love it.
For sure.
So do you have one league like that's maybe you consider your primary league?
I did for a long time. And eventually it's going to sound like a commercial for guillotine leagues. The guillotine format's just so compelling, and my heart was really in that. So I migrated those guys, and most of them came over to my guillotine league. So, my long time, 20-year-old league with all, 30-year-old league with a lot of all my old friends we're now in a guillotine league. So,
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, not trying to over pimp guillotine leagues, but it does have that effect on some people where you kind of can't go back to regular fantasy.
It's your passion. I love it. Over the years, though, playing in those long-standing leagues, any fun traditions you had? Anything that you can recall? Just things that made the league special.
Well, I mean, the draft always makes it special, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing. You just, at the end of the day, it's the best part to me, the best part. And by the way, as a side note, the people who crap on people who are like, you're drafting now, right? Okay, well, you did some guy breaks his leg in late August, and everybody gets up in your face. Well, this is why you have your draft, the day before the season starts. No, you have your draft when everybody can get together.
Exactly.
Because that's the most important thing, is when everybody's in the backyard, barbecuing, drinking beers, whatever, mocking everybody's picks, walking up with their stickers onto the draft board. I mean, that's what we're here for. That's the best part of any league to me, is seeing each other face to face and maintaining your friendships. And, you get lifelong friends, but you only see them one day a year at your fantasy draft. It's the best.
It is. It's the way you stay connected. My home league, it's friends from elementary school, junior high school, college, professional career. It's pretty fantastic the way that fantasy leagues create engagement, but then people stay connected. That's what it's all about for me. So
100%.
for guillotine, any strategies, any tips you can provide for people that are maybe
lots.
discovering it? Well, what do you got?
So, okay. So in your guillotine league, because you can get chopped in any week, what you can't have, you're just trying to not finish last. Finishing in, week 1, there's 18 teams. Finishing 17th gets you exactly the same thing as finishing first overall. No difference. All you need to do is not be chopped. So we're really focusing on reducing risk. What you can't have is a roster of volatile, high output, low floor guys. Because if 3 of them hit their low floor in the same week, now you're chopped. So we're looking for consistent week over week performers and not upside. And whether you know it or not, if you're in just a regular standard league, you've been conditioned to take upside, to find upside, find upside, because you need to be the best of 12 teams. So I need to be at that 92 percentile. I need to figure out what my big takes are going to be, and then I need them to be right. So I'm gonna go all in on like 3 or 4 big hunches. That's contrarian plays that other people don't have, and then just hope that most of those hit. And that's my pathway to going to win. That's the exact opposite of a guillotine league. Boring players like Evan Ingram, great guillotine guy.
Okay.
Deontay Johnson, good guillotine guy. Just got people that 6 catches and 80 yards without a touchdown is a win in your guillotine league, because that player is not contributing to you getting chopped. So we're trying to Kirk Cousins, right? Sure. Love to have the rushing upside that, I can get with Lamar Jackson. But Kirk Cousins has thrown touchdowns in 54 of his last 55 games. He's not going to get me cut. So those are the kinds of players that we're trying to prioritize in a guillotine league draft.
Any general recommendations on fab management for guillotine?
Right. So let me ask you this, Kevin, because you've been through this. It's week 1, and in some of our thousands of leagues that we run, Christian McCaffrey is going to get cut. And even if Christian McCaffrey has a good game, the rest of your roster doesn't. And then, he gets cut in some leagues. Yeah. So Christian McCaffrey comes up on the waiver wire along with the rest of that person's roster. But let's just talk about Christian McCaffrey for a minute. And you've got $1,000 to spend. It's right after week 1. We're heading into week 2. How much fab do you spend out of your 1,000 to go get Christian McCaffrey heading into week 2?
I don't. What I did last year is I let people spend, because I feel like the people that spent early and spent everything, they weren't around weeks ahead. So I'm going to wait for McCaffrey to come to me later on when others have spent all their fab. I mean, that's what I did.
Yes, and that's the secret. So what happens is, and I'm going to segue for a second here. There's a thing called the miracle of the Christmas noobs. It's a video game. It's a video game thing. Like, you play Call of Duty and you're scuffing along for 364 days. Here comes Christmas. All these kids get a brand new Xbox. They get Call of Duty. They barely know how to hold the controller. Christmas Day it's perfect for Call of Duty, right? You just rack up kills. It's beautiful. The version of that in a guillotine league is week 1, when superstar players hit the waiver wire, and we're used to scuffling on the waiver wire over a 3rd string running back who we got a positive report out of practice on. Here comes Christian McCaffrey, or insert player here, right? Lamar Jackson. It could be Tyreek Hill. It could be Justin Jefferson, and people lose their minds. The newbies lose their heads, and they're like, $900, Christian McCaffrey. I'll spend $900 right here in week 2, and I'm going to hold him all year. And what that does is, you found out is, okay, that keeps you alive for 3 weeks. You added Christian McCaffrey in, and then you're out of money. And the rest of the league is just piling up good players, and you can't be a part of it. And having one good Christian McCaffrey is not good enough when you get to October, November, and especially December. So that's you've hit on what the key part of fab management is, to save as much fab as you can for later in the season, when really great rosters are getting whacked in October, November, December, and you want to have money left to bid on those players.
Exactly, especially pre-bye week, right? And it's true. I mean, I think those bargains are what you need early on, especially to if you want to survive. So, but it's like I said, it's such a fun experience, and the intensity of whether you're going to get, because I had weeks where I was, at the top, but then weeks where I think I survived just a few weeks early on where I was at the, down at the bottom. And it was, because you don't want to lose that experience. You want it to keep
No,
going, to
right.
keep going. So
Right. Absolutely.
pretty special. So, okay. So 93, you dive in, you got fan ball going. What is the kind of the timeline things? Because you have founded, league safe leagues. You've done the radio show. Talk about the radio show. Talk about your journey in this sports media space.
Well, I'll try to do it chronologically, and thank you for caring, which is remarkable. So mid 90s, we started the magazine. Then I started doing regular appearances on our local sports talk radio station, KFAN, in 1995. And that turned into a Saturday morning radio show that started airing and continues to air to this day, called Fantasy Football Weekly. It's also a podcast, has been podcast for 10 plus years. And Fantasy Football Weekly is myself, right? Current set of hosts are myself, Scott Fish, who you know well, Brian Johnson, who you may or may not know, he's been my right-hand man at my last 3 companies, and Thor Nystrom and Matt Harrison. And Matt's also somebody that I worked with closely at League Safe, and Thor Nystrom, who's carving out a really nice name for himself as a college football analyst. And he's one of my other co-hosts on the show. So that's been going for now. We just last week celebrated our 30-year anniversary of Fantasy Football Weekly, which is tons of fun. I mean, never would have believed it in 95 that, we'd still be doing it 30 years later. So there was that. And then we migrated the magazine, Kevin, into a website, fanball.com, in the late 90s. When the .com bubble was just enormous, we raised a bunch of money. We hired an excessively big staff. Our staff was in the 50s.
Oh, wow.
And then, like everybody, we burned through all of our easy, cheap money to start your website. And then we had to lay off 2/3 of our people. I think we were down to 10 employees, so more than 2/3 of our people. And we were able to sort of rebuild the company really on the back of Fanball Commissioner. We had a really good commissioner program in the early aughts that was super competitive. And and then with all of that, also, I started getting involved in the Fantasy Sports Trade Association, as it was then known, and eventually became the president of that. And we're in 2007, I think. Sold Fanball in 2005, continued working there until 2007. Then I launched League Safe, sold and ran that till 2018, sold that, worked for the acquiring company for a few years. And then I've been doing Guillotine Leagues ever since. And so that's the broad strokes. So
That's it.
Long, really, really excessively boring story.
That's a Hall of Fame career. No, I think it's amazing. So many innovative, aspects to those companies too. I mean, the League Safe has just been huge for commissioners and leagues, all across the country, right? And
thank you.
And obviously, Safe Leagues. Scott Fish is a huge part of that, and that's always fun to see.
Yeah, Scott's done a great job taking over that. That was one of the things we started at League Safe, was Safe Leagues. And that was and that continues to go today too. So very proud that those are still going, and such good people are still running them, right?
Yes. And now, obviously, you bring up FSGA, formerly FSTA. I've been a member for several years now. It's such an incredible organization, association. The events are really, really special, unique, right? I think there's a lot of viewers and listeners to the show. There might be independent content creators that are curious about it. They might be held back. They don't really know what they're getting into. What has your experience been with FSGA? Obviously, you were president for many, many years. And what advice do you have for people that are curious about attending? What can they get out of it?
Well, the people who were looking, our charter with the association is to help fantasy sports businesses and now sports betting businesses. We cover both sides of it. And so for people that you have an idea for a company, or maybe you've started your company and you want to become immersed in the industry, you want to learn from others. There's a lot of us now that have got 20, 30 years of experience that we try to help people with. You get industry research. it's just there's so many benefits with the people that you get networked to inside the Fantasy Sports Gaming Association that it's really helpful to be able to, again, get all the research, do all the networking, and just find ways to improve your company that would not normally be on your radar. And, what ends up happening a lot of times is somebody comes up and says, here's the company that I'm thinking about launching, or here's the company that we're coding right now. And then myself and other industry experts will go, okay, this has been tried. Variations of this have been tried several times. Let's talk through why those didn't work and, why, what you might be able to do to give yourself a better chance.
It's amazing. How about just for content creators in general that want to get more in fantasy sports, get more involved? What advice do you have for individuals that want to do more in the industry?
Well, I think that you just need to, one is if you're thinking about content like your show right here, right, the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast, then the single biggest thing to me is longevity. That you actually, everybody starts their content journey all excited. It's the people that are still doing it 9 months, 12 months, 18 months later. Do you have the perseverance when you start with a very small audience, and can you persevere and keep it going from a content standpoint?
Yeah.
And that includes, you might be self-publishing your work, or you might be, writing one article a week for somebody else's site. It's, those are, having the longevity and the willingness to keep working on, grinding out content. Ultimately, great content gets rewarded. You just have to decide if you're willing to stick with it.
Great advice. Now, when it comes to just your journey, what's been the most rewarding part of it for you?
Guillotine Leagues is the most rewarding thing I've ever done. League Safe's was great, and it filled a really important need. And I think we have diverted so many problems that leagues would have had, commissioners who wouldn't have paid, stuff like that. I mean, I think that counts for a ton. But because Guillotine Leagues is just, people are so passionate about it and they love it so much, to have people come back and say, this is the best fantasy experience I've ever had, is not something I had ever had in my career. So this is the most rewarding thing that I've ever developed.
I love that. That's great. And it's exciting. Again, so much fun. It's so fun for me to have you on here this week and share a little bit more about this new all the news that's circling the fantasy sports industry. It's great. This community, the fantasy community is real special. I'm coming off the Fantasy Football Expo. It's just it's such a fun event. There's so many great people in this space. For you, how much has the community meant to you, and the friendships you've made meant to you over the years?
Tons. Just so many good people. Here's the thing that I think, until you're in the industry, you don't realize there's so few bad actors, and everybody wants to help everybody. We'll see people who will come into our industry events, like our conferences and stuff, and they're on guard because they've been to other events and it's predatory. It's it's cutthroat, and it just isn't that way. And I think it's because even at this stage of the fantasy industry, Kevin, we are an underserved marketplace. There's so many people playing, over 50 million Americans playing fantasy sports. We're an underserved marketplace. And so it's really easy to cheer for other people and help other companies, and even ones that in theory are competitive with your own. It's easy to want them to do well. And the community's just so, supportive of each other. I love that part of it. And again, one of those things you don't know until you're at the expo, or you're at an FSGA conference and you're talking to people that just want to help you do better.
Yeah, and that's what I've experienced too. Once upon a time, I was named ESPN Commissioner of the Year, and I
That's so cool.
I've been playing fantasy forever, but it was that experience that led me to see how many great people were in the community, and I didn't realize there were so many independent brands and sites out there. I was just one of those that was average players that loved the game. But,
Yeah.
I I went with the analysts on the host platforms. I loved my Andy Behrens and my Brad Evans and my
Great
Brandon
guys too.
Dunstons, right?
Yes.
And then the Matthew Berry and the ESPN people. But I didn't realize like how many great people were out there. And then diving in, I got so much support. Like during that contest, I got so much, just I got to meet so many great people, and that's fueled me these years. So I too, I agree. This community is very, very special. Now you have interests outside of fantasy though. Like what are your favorite hobbies and activities outside of sports?
Well, I mentioned video games already. I'm a gamer. I had a video game radio show for 15 years in the Twin Cities. And every week, myself and the guys from Game Informer magazine would come on, and we'd talk about what was new in video games. Here are the new games. Here's the new reviews. Here's what you should play. Here's what you shouldn't play. It was a ton of fun. I'm a big board gamer. I've got a collection of board games. I love gaming in general, and it's for all the same reasons we love fantasy. I love the camaraderie. I like the chit chat. I like the competitive play and the cooperative play. Board games, what people don't realize about board games, they've for those of us that grew up with like Clue and Monopoly and Risk, by today's standards, those games are so bad they can never even make it to market. The games have gotten so good and so refined. And the gameplay is so compelling that for people that have never had a special experience in board games, it's out there and waiting for you. I assure you, there are awesome games out there and cooperative games. And because traditionally, when you sit down and play a game, whatever it is, pick a game, Clue, Risk, Monopoly, whatever, whoever's sort of the most strategic thinker, whoever's the most competitive, those people tend to win those games. And it doesn't always make for a fun experience for the others. Yeah. In the new world of cooperative board gaming, you get the opportunity to play with one another against the game. And now that person gets to share ideas with the whole group, and you win together and hopefully, or lose together. But even then, losing together is way more fun than losing to somebody, I think. And
that's true.
So yeah. So I love all the new cooperative board games that are out in the marketplace.
That's awesome. Now you're also a bourbon guy. I need to hear more about the bourbon weekend that you do. Like this is fascinating to me.
Yeah, so we gamified whiskey because you got to make everything into a game, Kevin, apparently. And so what happens is after the football season, mid-February, myself and 9 other guys go up to a cabin in the middle of frozen Minnesota. And over the course of this long weekend, everybody brings one bottle to the event that has never been there before of your favorite, whatever whiskey you want, but it can't be a whiskey that's ever come before. We've done this for 13 years now. So, we've knocked out like 130 bottles. So you got to bring something new. And then we have one guy who helps administer a blind double elimination March Madness style drink off with all of the different bottles. So you don't know what you're drinking. You just get cup A and cup B, and you sample both. You vote for one, and if cup A advances, great. If cup B loses twice over the course of the weekend, then it's out. And so we're just waiting for bottles to lose 2 times, and then it gets revealed what the bottle was, and then we find out what the last bottle standing is. And it is a ton of fun, and that is sort of like my official end of the football season right there, whiskey weekend.
That's great. So what's the all-time GOAT? Like, do you have one that's survived? I mean, obviously you don't duplicate them, but do you have a group of like, these are the winners, and then they face off?
Well, we try to do. The problem is some of the whiskeys come and go. they're not out. They're not all out all the time. It's one thing if it's like Jack Daniels, which that was a year one. I could go buy a bottle of Jack, but a lot of times, the winner of any given year is just not a bottle that you can readily find anymore. So we have never done like super, like the best of the best taste off. But there's a couple that I found really interesting in the past few years. The Total Wine house brand called Walcott is a great bourbon, and it costs you like $28, and it's really good. I don't know what it actually is inside. We don't know. There's some theories about what you're actually getting. Some people think it's bullet bourbon in there. We don't know, but the store brand at Total Wine is very good. And the other one that was a real revelation from a couple of years ago, there's a there's a company, it's called Pipe Dream. Hold on. I'm going to get this exactly right. I just got to quick look this up. Public. I should really know this. Here it comes. Redwood Empire has a variation called Pipe Dream that won in 2022, and it's really good. Yeah, and it's also cheap. It's like $40. There's been no correlation between cost and winning for our group.
It's good to know. That's great.
Yeah, isn't it? I mean, it's really, really handy that you don't, people have sometimes brought some really expensive bottles, and generally they don't fare any better in a blind taste test when, you don't know what you're drinking and the label's off and you're just going by taste.
Well, I love it. No, I think it's so cool that you do that. It's like a fantasy league when it comes to bourbon and whiskey. And again, I'm sure it's all about that camaraderie and that experience together. So
Yeah,
cool that you do that for sure. Let's dive into some rapid fire questions. I'll just throw out some questions. Let me know what first comes to mind. What's your favorite part of the NFL offseason?
I already mentioned Whiskey Weekend. There's let me think. I mean, this is a personal answer. I mean, my wife and I own a camper, and so we try to unplug and just get away and leave Minnesota as early as we can get the camper out of Minnesota. So a lot of times there's, we're buried in snow and we can't get the camper out for a while, but by late March, early April, things have thawed a little bit, and we jump in the camper and we go to warmer climates and try to just get away and unplug and enjoy the fact that we're not in front of screens watching football, all the time.
That's great. How about an all-time favorite TV show?
TV's gotten so much better. I mean, so let's start there. So, I mean, it's tempting to go old school, but when you go back and watch some of the old school shows, there's, a lot of them just don't hold up because TV's just gotten so much better. Yeah. Probably my all-time favorite is a show on Amazon called Patriot. Nobody knows about Patriot. It's and the premise doesn't sound super compelling. It's one of those shows you just have to see. It's the best written, acted combination show I think that's ever been created. It's about a CIA spy who has to do things he doesn't really want to do, and he's actually very sad. But there are things that just have to be done, so he goes and tries to do them. But it's a subtle, brilliant comedy that, if for the right people, a lot of people won't even see the comedy, but for the right people, Patriot gives you this. It's hard to describe in ways that do it justice. It's just the brilliance of the snappy dialogue, the incredible acting, this and the way that it's shot. It's 10 out of 10 viewing. It's Patriot. It's on Amazon. Nobody knows about it, and if you do and you try it, for a lot of you, I think you'll absolutely be hooked. It's just brilliant.
Great suggestion. I like that. How about an all-time favorite movie?
Well, I've got a couple. Probably my all-time favorite is a French movie called Amélie, which is just a charming movie from about 2000. That's about a young girl who's kind of a social outfit, but ends up playing like pranks on people, and that's just how she sort of relates to the world, by playing little pranks on people, and it's very cute. Moonrise Kingdom is my wife and I's like go-to movie. That was back when in my dating days. That was like, okay, if you don't love this movie, you're out. Moonrise Kingdom's a Wes Anderson movie that I absolutely adore, and I think is one of the all-time greats. Brilliantly shot and a tremendous story about two 14-year-old runaways that try to make a little life for themselves while their parents are off looking for them on a little island. It's super cute. So those are two off the top of my head of movies that I just love. Amélie and Moonrise Kingdom. I know they're not, again, movies nobody's seen. But good. if five of your listener viewers end up checking out Patriot, Moonrise Kingdom, or Amélie, I will feel like my life's worth living. I've done good here.
I think that's great to get different answers like that. How about all-time favorite sports movie?
Slapshot, probably.
Okay.
I mean, I'm in Minnesota, right? I mean, we grew up, hockey's just so big here. People don't understand that's what you do.
Yeah.
Right.
Hanson brothers.
Yeah. The Hanson brothers. And I mean, it's like I think a lot of comedies, it doesn't hold up perfectly today. Our tastes in comedy change a lot. And I think, we've become more sophisticated with what we consider comedy. But that's, to me, Slapshot's it's an absolute classic. It's great.
That's great. How about what is your all-time favorite board game at this stage?
Well, yeah, I get asked that from time to time, and a lot of the times it just sort of depends on what you're in the mood for in that moment. But the game that sort of changed the whole landscape of board games is called Pandemic, and it had it did quite shockingly well during the pandemic. It was the first cooperative board game to really hit a mass market, and it's brilliantly done. You and up to 3 other people are racing around the globe trying to stomp out a spreading pandemic, actually several different spreading pandemics, and try to neutralize them. And everybody's got a different role with some different skills. And Pandemic remains just one of the great cooperative board game experiences where you don't have to be uber nerdy and uber strategic, but you can still play with others and still do a lot of kind of coordination of who's going to do what on their turn. And it's great. Pandemic's a terrific game. Highly recommend.
Great. That's fun. I like that. How about your favorite vacation of all time?
These are really good questions. I got married in Hawaii, so that has a lot of sentimental value for me, as you might be able to imagine. And also had a chance to take my daughter and my wife to London about 5 years ago, year before the pandemic, 2019. And that was a really great experience. And it's sometimes it's important to get off the continent and just experience another culture and see so many big things to do in London, right? British Museum and Big Ben and the Tower of London, and just we did a lot of the typical touristy stuff, and we also just walked around a lot. And we went they've got their version of Broadway, and we saw some just fantastic plays. There's just London's was a great experience for us.
How about a bucket list travel destination?
Great Barrier Reef. So I'm scuba certified. I love it. I don't get to do it very often, but love it, and I'd love to be able to hit the Great Barrier Reef and experience that. And it's, there's for a while it was receding, but it is now actually grown and is in a very healthy spot right now. And the Great Barrier Reef's doing really well. So it's not like, I got to go before it's gone. There was, at one time, I think a while ago, there was some concern about that, but yeah, it's in great shape.
Right.
I'd love to go.
That's good.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I think that's wonderful. I love scuba diving. It's great.
How have you gone? Are you scuba certified?
I am. I don't know if it's still current, but I have. I've gone in the Bahamas with some sharks and stuff. I've seen some fun stuff.
You
St.
did?
Lucia,
All right.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Great.
Great Barrier Reef. That'd be fun.
Wouldn't it be great? And I was in the Bahamas and saw reef sharks as well. So you may have had a similar experience to what I had, and it's pretty wild.
It is. They drop you in that feeding zone. There's no cages. It's just, big sharks, whether they're nice or not. It's an interesting experience.
I did not get dropped into a feeding zone. I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, maybe it's good because they're full, right? The sharks are full because they've been fed. Yeah,
it was unique. It was before we had our daughter. I don't know if I would do it again that way, but no, it was fun. How about a go-to snack, beverage, or meal?
We've got the greatest steakhouse in America in Minneapolis called Manny's. And, in the Midwest, there's a lot of foods that we don't do well that just aren't here, right? Seafood is a prime example, but we do great is steak. You can get great steak in the Midwest. Chicago's known for its steakhouses. And I've been to pretty much all the great ones. Manny's in Minnesota is the best steakhouse in America, top to bottom, not just the steak, but the sides, the desserts, the presentation. It's where the Vikings take all the free agents they're trying to sign to go to Manny's. And that's, that tells you a lot about how great Manny's is. So that's like my, that's going to be when the authorities finally catch up with me and I'm having my final dinner before my execution. We're gonna bring in some Manny's.
That's the one. I love it. How about a favorite artist, band, musician of all time?
Yeah, it's another one. So again, gonna give all oddball answers here. So I like indie music. I mentioned some my TV shows nobody knows, movies nobody knows. I like indie music. Explosions in the Sky is my favorite band of the last probably 20 years. They're an instrumental band that's in a category called post-rock, which is guitar heavy, crescendoing music that's often very quiet, gets loud, gets loud, gets loud, and then goes back to quiet, gets loud. So it's ethereal, it's powerful, it's so many great things that I love in music. And I work to music in the background all the time, and I can't have words. I can't work and have words because my brain just like pays too much attention to the music. I need instrumental stuff in the background. So Explosions in the Sky has been sort of my go-to work band for, like I said, about 20 years now.
Great answers for sure. What are you most grateful for at this time?
Well, the people like you care about people like me is really cool. I get to make new friends, and I'm really grateful for the people that I get to work with and be part of this online community. And we've talked about it. It's just, like I'd struggle as an actuary, Kevin. I get to work with so many great people, and I'm grateful for that, and grateful to have a microphone and people that are crazy enough to feel like they want to listen to me.
Is there anything else that we haven't covered before we close things out?
Tell me, I'm going to flip some of these questions on you. So
Okay.
You give me a TV recommendation, your favorite TV show.
Oh man, now I'm on the spot. TV show. I mean, I'd say like Game of Thrones was probably one of my favorites.
It was great for a while.
That last season, a little disappointed, but I'd probably put Game of Thrones up there. The funny thing is I have never seen The Sopranos, but I'm currently in like late in season 1.
Okay.
It's been good.
I
expect that to be a great show.
I think it's good. And what they really did with Sopranos is they showed us that kind of episodic content, it has real following, and people will watch 50 episodes of your show spanning, 5 seasons. Yeah. And, because pre-Sopranos, there weren't many shows like that. There's The Wire and there's a few others, but there really weren't very many that were like that. So it was a trailblazer.
Did you have any other questions?
Yeah. How about movie? All right. Give me the movie recommendation.
Again, I can't go where you're going with those unique movies. I love Gladiator. Gladiator is one of the ones I think of. On the sports front, I love Major League and Field of Dreams, those kind of things. I'm, kind of vanilla answers, standard answers, but that's where I'm at.
That's all right. You get to have vanilla answers. If I'm going to pick, Gladiator would not be my Ridley Scott movie. My Ridley Scott movie is Alien Singular, which I think is one of the great horror movies of all time, not because of the jump scares and not because of the alien, but because of all the characters on the ship. So brilliant. And Ian Holm playing you can't say too much. I mean, epic plot twists, which we love. Yeah, I think Aliens are the high watermark for sci-fi horror films.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
Love that. Okay, then your last one to reverse these on you.
Okay,
give me a band I should listen to.
Oh my gosh, that's where I am. I'm ultra vanilla in that I just kind of enjoy all kinds of different music. I will say, my daughter's 11. We've been in Taylor Swift's territory for quite some time, so I'm kind of known as a Swiftie. But I can't bring anything unique to the table on that front.
Are you taking Travis Kelce as the second tight end off the board?
I'm not. I think at some point there's going to be a drop off. Obviously, it's about ADP. If he falls to me, I will do it. But I'm going to fade Kelce this year, just knowing at some point it's dropping off. And obviously last year, slow start, finished strong. Obviously in the playoffs, he was in it to win it. But I will likely fade him.
The signs were there last year. We had some troubling things, right? Week 11 to the end of the regular season, Travis Kelce didn't score a touchdown. And that's whatever, 8-game stretch or something. Yeah. That was troubling. I think he had 2 100-yard games and 6 games under 44 yards. And just like this, I'm going to get out a year early. I'd rather get out a year early on Travis Kelce than a year late. So I'm going to let somebody else take him, and I'll probably regret it. He's probably still got another good year left in him, but I think I'd rather just roll the dice on Dalton Kincaid.
I'm with you, Paul. I'm with you. No, this is a ton of fun. Again, I really appreciate you coming on here. It's fun to hear the exciting news. Congrats on everything with Guillotine Leagues. The best is yet to come, and I'm excited that you're going to be part of that and spreading the word, because it's truly a special game and a great way to play fantasy. So, best of luck to you. Again, thank you so much for coming on here.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for listening. A lot of talking by me. Good Lord.
You did. It was an enjoyable conversation. I appreciate it, Paul.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. Until next time, be sure to follow and subscribe to all of FFU's social media accounts for daily content.